I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is Warren Ballantyne. Warren, hey man, how you doing?
Good, Jesse. Always good to talk to you, brother. Always good to see you.
Warren is a motivational speaker, attorney, political activist, radio talk show host, a brother that I've known for nearly 3 decades, described by the New York Times as one of Black Talk Radio's new stars. He led the Radio One company, Radio One National Voter Registration Campaign, covering both Democratic and Republican conventions. He is my good friend. Warren, welcome to Los Angeles with me, my brother.
Man, brother. I love doing your show. I'm so proud of you, man. I love your advocacy for us as a nation, as a people. And I'm supporting you 10,000% in everything you do, brother.
Brother, I appreciate that very much. Listen, we began advocacy on KBLA, and of course, our prayers continue to go out to the victims of the wildfires and the communities that find themselves at this hour reorganizing. But even in light of all of the trauma which KBLA has been doing its best to assuage, we know that resources are still necessary in Los Angeles. Our station has done and continues to do everything that it can to be a voice for the voiceless. And so I want to encourage those of you who hear my voice to continue to call into KBLA so we can help direct some of the traffic associated with the traffic and tragedy, some of the traffic. And we are so, so, so grateful that God has spared many of our lives from this awful period. But when we come together, we can make a difference. Warren, I want to talk about 4 or 5 issues over the course of the next hour with you. We led, both of us, some national advocacy. When one considers the condition of the debt-paid felon. As you know, I spent 30 months in a federal prison for campaign violations, using campaign funds, living in my campaign for more than 10 years, and it cost me 30 or so months in prison. And you too confronted a case and paid your debt to society in full, just as I did. But now we find ourselves with 70 million Americans who need the president of the United States to act. Joe Biden did not act for us. He acted for his son. He acted for his family. But he left millions of families without consideration. What's the next step in your mind, Warren, for our continued advocacy for the debt-paid felon?
I think we have to make a real conversation and an effort to get Trump's attention. I think President Trump is somebody who's willing to at least listen to the conversation and then decide if he wants to do it or not. And I think that it's bad to say this, but I think it's more likely than not that he will find that the power of the pardon is one of the most powerful things that the president has. And as somebody who likes attention and who likes power, I can see him pardon a lot of people in the next 4 years because he's been through something personally. As I told people when he was the candidate and all these cases was against him, I told everybody, like, all these cases, only 2 of these cases are real cases. All these other cases is crap. It's made up stuff, and they're attacking him. They're piling on. 2 of them were legit. 2 of them were legit cases. And so he got off because he won the presidency, but because he went through that and because he understands what happens to you when you have that, he turns around, and I think he will give pardons.
I share your position on that. And I think we're going to come up and talk about a strategy when we come forward on what we can do to approach Donald Trump on behalf of millions of men and women who've paid their debt to society, because we cannot afford to wait another 4 years and then another 4 years and then another 4 years. We've got to get this done. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, my guest is none other than the great Warren Ballantyne.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips. Now I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out.
Oh, Downy in the rinse change.
Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. and welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is my brother, Warren Ballantyne. Warren, just before the break, we were talking about the need to approach Donald Trump on behalf of the millions of silent voices who've paid their debt to society in full. As you know, even as we speak, on this day, Alice Johnson was appointed by Donald Trump to be the so-called pardon czar, an African-American woman who herself was convicted, did a significant amount of time, was pardoned by Donald Trump in his first term as president of the United States. And now he has essentially brought her back as the head of the pardon office for the entire federal government. Your thoughts on that move right there? What kind of signal does that send?
Well, to me, the signal is I'm willing to listen to granting pardons to people because I've been where those people are at. And the fact that he put Alice in that position, actually, I have to applaud him for this, because to put somebody in that position who's been through the system, who understands how the system is, and they can look at each one of these cases as individual people, not just a stack of recommendations or applications, that makes a huge difference, man. It really does. And it's shame on the Democrats, because the Democrats should have done something like this a long time ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, when I think about what Joe Biden could have done, it would have changed the course of the presidential election had he looked at the men and women who paid their debt to society. Expound on that for us, Brother Ballantyne.
Well, look, I will tell you, Jesse. I'm friends with Van Jones. I'm friends with Jamal Simmons and a host of other people who are on CNN because I used to be up there before I had the problem that I had with the legal system. And I was texting them and I was begging them. I was like, bring this up on air to force the hand of the Democratic Party. They need to be talking about granting pardons. He needs to be doing executive orders. She's behind Trump because Biden was behind Trump before he even did the debate. After the debate, he really was behind and had to step out the election. So the only way that VP Harris really could have gotten traction in a way that she needed to get it was that Biden administration did a bunch of executive orders, the same way that Trump is doing right now. And even if those orders would have been reversed or repealed, it would have gave some people in this country some hope, and it would have gave them something that was tangible. And that's the difference between what Trump is saying and what the Democrats are saying. He's offering people something that they believe is tangible, even though he's lying through his teeth. But people believe it because it sounds like it can happen. The Democrats are not even doing that. And then when we vote for them, they tell us they're going to do X, Y, and Z for us, and they don't. And so now you have a whole group of people who are literally mentally disenfranchised from voting, period, because they don't want to vote for the Republican. They don't want to vote for the Democrats no more because nothing's changed for them. And we have to start talking about what can we give people that's tangible that will get people excited about voting again.
I'm calling on Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, Derek Johnson, president of the NAACP, Mark Morial, the national president of the Urban League. We are calling for an emancipation proclamation for the debt-paid felon. There's so many of us that you really can't look at it one case at a time. The issues don't need to be relitigated. We paid our debt to society. We're in barbershops now. We're cutting hair. We learned how to cut hair in prison, in jail. And yet, every time we try to get a different job or work, we've got to check the box. And the Democratic Party didn't do anything for us in this regard. And so, yes, we have to go to Donald Trump or wait 4 more years, add 4 more years to the time that the judge gave you because the Democrats left us out here hanging. He took care of his son. He took care of his daughter. He took care of his children.
You know, Jesse, I would take this even a step further, right? I would take it a step further in this sense, right? If the Democrats was really playing chess and not playing checkers, the fact that Trump pardoned all these January 6 people, they should be screaming it to the top of their lungs at the DNC, in the Senate, and in the House. If you can give them pardons, what about our people too?
Absolutely.
What makes them different than our people who need pardons? What makes them different than people who are Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whose cases they've done their time, they paid their fine, they paid their debt. It's been 5, 10 years down the road, and they still can't get a pardon. They should be screaming that, because if they scream that, it literally makes every ethnicity, every religious group, every gender say, wait a minute, we know somebody, or I am somebody who's affected by what they're saying. And we do need to make this where if these people can attack the Capitol, we should be able to do some stuff too.
Brother Ballantyne, I hear from somebody every day, even right now. My iPhone, one of my line brothers just texted me. He can't buy a group home because they won't sell it to him. So he got to put the group home in his girlfriend's name. So yeah, it affects us in so many ways. So I'm going to get Reverend Jackson, Reverend Sharpton, these national African-American leaders on board. We want a meeting with Donald Trump. We want a meeting with Alice Johnson. We want to discuss meaningful pardons, absolute, complete, and unconditional pardons on a scale that we have not ever seen. We want that certificate with the office of the President of the United States in every one of our households so we can free our people. And we're dead serious about that. Let me move on to another subject for a moment. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, he caught a case. And everybody's seen him duck, dodge, wiggle, and try his best to avoid that case, even to the point of public humiliation. Mayor of New York City, in and out of court. But on Fox News the other day, he was there with the ICE czar. And the ICE czar said, now, we got a deal. We got an understanding. We're putting your case on hold right now. And if you don't cooperate, I'm coming by your office and we're not going to be on this couch. I'm going to be in your butt. What's all that about, Warren? Having a grown man, mayor of the largest city in the United States, sitting out here dancing for the federal government and dancing for Donald Trump.
Well, he really doesn't have a choice the way our legal system is. I mean, to be honest with you, this is what happens every day in a courtroom, right? Somebody will commit a crime, and somebody else may have been there and didn't even know that person was committing a crime. But because the prosecutors want a big arrest, they get the person who actually did it to say, well, that person knew exactly what I was doing. And so this is what the government is doing to him right now. Like, hey, if you don't want to get a higher charge, or if you don't want to get a criminal record, you're going to play ball with us. You're going to give us the information that we want. You're going to give us the information that we need. And if you do that, then guess what? We'll reduce your time, or we won't give you a criminal charge. And so Eric Adams is literally everybody that's in a courthouse right now who's
Absolutely.
in a conspiracy case across this country.
And I mean, he's dancing. I mean, I've never seen them string somebody out in this process so publicly.
He's dancing just like the mobsters. When the mobsters get popped and one of them is tricking, that one that's tricking is dancing just like Eric Adams, because he's trying to make sure that he has witness protection for him and his family so that he can live the rest of his life. And that's all that Eric Adams is doing right now. That's why I'm not even going to talk disparagingly about the mayor, because I understand legally why he's doing what he's doing.
I totally get it. The first thing when my case came was I said, I'm owning all of my behavior. I'm pleading guilty. I want to do my time. Don't come asking me about nobody else, and don't blame nobody else. This is my campaign. And the government actually said, Mr. Jackson, we appreciate you being so honest about it. I said, yeah, because all you're doing is knocking on the doors of all of my friends, knocking on the doors of members of my family. And if someone turns around and says something that's not appropriate, you're going to charge them with lying.
Yeah.
And so leave all these people alone. This is my campaign. This is my behavior. I own the behavior. Give me my time and leave these people alone. So I took my charge and I pled guilty. Now, I really do understand exactly what you're saying about what the mayor's going through is happening in a courtroom. Applies, probably said it best, in every courtroom in the nation. Somebody's looking at 100 years.
Yep.
Somebody's looking at some kind of, don't want to be nobody's co-defendant. You can Google that on YouTube. Plies lays it out for you, right? But I've never seen them string a mayor of a major city out here quite like they're doing Eric Adams. And I get it. I mean, he don't want to go to prison. He does not want to be in Rikers Island. He does not want his name disparaged any more than it already is. But there is no guarantee that they still won't charge him at a later date. So
they done strung mayors and governors and members of the Senate. We just didn't have the access that we have today. That's the difference. You got a different change from the administration. That's the difference right here that's going on.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised, Warren, that the governor of New York chose not to remove Eric Adams from office in light of all of the allegations and what she has seen herself?
No, I'm not surprised, because I think that was a very shrewd but prudent move on her part, because honestly, you got to let it play out. Why pull somebody without knowing all of the facts and knowing all the things? And look, I lived that. I'm in 30 markets, 3 million listeners. They pulled me the next day off the radio and never put me back on Radio 1. And it was like, well, you don't even know what's going on. And then afterwards, they see everything and they're like, oh, Warren, we apologize. We didn't realize. There's like, yeah, they was setting you. They were coming for you. This is some crap. And so now it's like, oh yeah, you can get back on our shows, but we're not going to syndicate you anymore. And that's the problem. Once you pull it, if the person didn't do all the stuff that people are claiming, you can't even go back and fix it because it looks like you're hypocritical or you reacted too soon, so you just let it play out. And I'm actually glad she did it the way she did it.
Oh, well, that's interesting because it's equally divided in the state of New York that she should not leave him hanging out there, but then on the other hand, she herself is running for re-election as governor of the state, and the African American community removing an African American mayor has consequences. Let me ask you this question. Do you think it signals to other mayors, like other African American mayors of major cities, the depth to which Donald Trump is willing to go to enforce his will at the local level, whether it's Los Angeles or the city of Chicago, or he even made the announcement this week that he wants Washington, D.C. to become part of the federal government and eliminate the entire local government. It's almost like wherever there is an African American mayor, he wants to change the rules of the game 250 years later, since the inception of the Republic.
Well, I'll say this, Jesse. When I see what's going on right now in this nation, history repeats itself. And I'm not, and I'm gonna clarify this. I'm not saying that this regime is Hitler's regime, but what the Nazis did in Germany, from the time they put the star on our Jewish brothers and sisters, it took 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, and 8 hours from that star being put on them to them being into camps. What Trump is doing is the same thing. He's putting a star on these areas to try to get them federalized so he can localize the laws that he wants to be put into place. And DC is just the start. This is him going above and beyond to make sure that the federal government and his vision and his wants are met across this country. That's what he's doing.
I mean, I can see it as plain as the nose in the middle of my face that Donald Trump means business. And what's taking place with the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, running through the Treasury Department, running through the Department of Education, undermining and destroying the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, cutting funding to historically Black colleges and universities through the grant-making process at the National Institutes of Health. Kennedy running Health and Human Services, having no idea what he's doing with an outbreak of the measles. When we come forward, my very special guest is Warren Ballentine. We're going to talk about the Department of Education and HBCUs, the Department of Agriculture, and defunding scholarships and grants, and a conflict in the White House between the governor of Maine on the transgender issue with the president of the United States. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, we'll be with Warren Ballentine.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Washington, D.C.'s Black Mayor Muriel Bowser is calling President Trump's push for more federal control an unnecessary distraction. Trump cites crime and homelessness while Congress considers ending home rule. Akron, Ohio public schools are reviewing DEI policies after Trump's administration warned K-12 schools to cut race-based decisions or risk losing federal funding. The district says it is working to understand and implement the required changes while assessing the potential impact on students and staff. Former Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams' aide, Timothy Pearson, is accused of assaulting staff at a migrant shelter. Investigators say he abused power after a 2023 altercation with security guards who are now suing him. And Black Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott has sworn in the city's first opioid restitution advisory board to help oversee opioid settlement funds. All members are city residents, and their input will guide how the funds are used effectively. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
If you or someone you know is affected by the Los Angeles wildfires, you are not alone. No matter how sad, scared, or heartbroken you feel, CalHope is here for you and all those affected by the devastating wildfires. Find free, safe, and confidential mental health support at calhope.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron provided another example why many people consider him the GOAT, not Michael Jordan.
Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
I have a dream today.
From the inventors who transformed our world to the activists who changed our nation, their stories shaped America. This February, KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates Black History Month with powerful conversations, untold stories, and voices that need to be heard. Join us all month long for special programming that honors the past while inspiring our future. Black History Month on KBLA Talk 1580. Our history, our voices, our time.
There's new reaction following the Trump administration's sweeping efforts to cut the federal workforce.
Fired but not forgotten. The Testimony Project. Bearing witness, breaking silence, building community. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to amplifying the voices of Black federal workers impacted by the mass firings. Rooted in the Black tradition of testimony, this initiative ensures that those who served us are not erased from history. Through firsthand accounts, investigative storytelling, and community-driven dialogue, we intend to expose injustice, preserve truth, and demand accountability. If you or someone you know has been forced out of federal employment due to the mass firings, please contact us at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or via the open mic feature on the KBLA 1580 app. We want to hear from you and share your story. KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you, neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. For information on fire recovery resources, recovery hubs, and available services, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 countywide. Aid distribution locations, repopulation updates, and safety rules are constantly changing. Visit the LA City and LA County websites for the latest. If you'd like to sign up for the county's free debris removal, fill out a right of entry form, or get a list of disaster recovery centers that are still active, please visit recovery.lacounty.gov or call the debris hotline at 844-347-3332. If you're vulnerable to mudslides with rain in the forecast, free sandbags are being offered. Go to lacounty.pw/sandbags to find out where to get them. Businesses who have lost their facilities due to the fires can use a regional online source to get free or discounted locations. Whether you're interested in donating or finding space, you can visit the Business to Business Space Share portal at spaceshare.lacounty.gov. Additional LA County small business support and programs can be found at opportunity.lacounty.gov. Praying, advocating, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is none other than the legendary Warren Ballentine, one of our community and the nation's greatest talk show hosts. Warren, welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Brother,
We were talking about pardons, Warren. We were talking about pardons before the break. You know what? I'm beginning to believe that everybody that's a member of the Department of Government Efficiency, this whole Doge that's running through all these departments, man, every one of these guys is going to need a pardon by the time they get finished doing this, aren't they?
Well, I think they may need a pardon, but one of the things that I've been talking about doing shows all across the country is about how you got to look at Elon Musk and his Doge thing a little bit differently. And I said the reason why you got to look at this just a little bit differently is because Elon Musk didn't grow up in America. He's South African. He doesn't care about our Constitution. So when our Democratic leadership and our civil rights organizations are screaming about how this is unconstitutional, he can care less because he's not an American. He doesn't have that same sense of growing up with the pride of being an American and following the Constitution of the United States. So he's looking at this as what they did in South Africa doing apartheid and what he would do as a business owner. Even though it is very unconstitutional in the things that they're doing.
It's illegal. Let's be honest. It's illegal.
It's illegal. It's illegal.
It is an unauthorized agency. He does not have the right to run into these departments. I don't care what the president of the United States says. These 20-year-olds asking and getting access to critical files, downloading data. We have no idea what kind of back doors they are creating at the nation's treasury, the grant-making processes. We have no idea. It's illegal. But there was one of those. I think illegal.
This is what I think is going to happen, Jesse. I think that if they can actually, as we say in the streets, show those receipts, because they're putting numbers out of what they're finding as fraud and misrepresentation, but they're not putting any evidence out or any receipts out to show that, yeah, this check was sent here or this person got this money. They're just naming things.
That is the responsibility of Congress.
I do. I understand that. I understand that, Jesse. But what I'm saying is this.
Well, then
we're talking about this from.
Well, you can't say on the one hand that you understand it, but then you fire the inspector generals. You'd fire the accountability process. It is illegal. Illegal.
Jesse, hear me out on this, okay? This is the same argument that I tried to make to people about this election. I was like, poor black people are not going to go vote. And people was like, what are you talking about? They're voting. If they don't vote, they're throwing, it's their fault Trump won. No, it's not. Because they're living check to check. They're trying to keep this 1, 2, 3 jobs to keep a roof over their head. They're not following politics. They're not as informed as you and I are. So they don't realize all the stuff that's going on. And so they're just like, we don't care who is president. It's almost the same thing with this situation. You and I both know this is illegal. We both know this is wrong, that they don't have the power to do this, that Congress actually does have the power. However, if they can show receipts and prove that this stuff that they're saying is true, the American public is not going to care that Congress has the power. The American public is not going to care that it's illegal. And because of that, if they can show that, none of these people are going to get a backlash because they're going to be looked at as somebody who actually did something to clean up the wasteful spending in America more so than doing something illegally. Now, at this point, yes, you're right. It's illegal. It's wrong. Congress should be doing it. But again, I'm going to preference this if they can prove what they're saying and they can show the receipts of that. 90% of the country is not going to care whether Democrat, Republican, Independent, and even those who know the law, they're not going to care.
Warren, here's my problem with that. The president says that diversity, equity, and inclusion is illegal, that they've passed the executive orders, the Supreme Court in the case versus Harvard University fair admissions case, that diversity, equity, and inclusion is illegal, right? That you can't admit students or give scholarships to students on the basis of race. Well, if I follow that logic that it is not illegal to show government efficiencies, the argument can be made that 110 historically Black colleges and universities are illegal, and they're not. They're illegal. And every one of these institutions, because Warren, I got to get this out, every one of these institutions receives a significant amount of money from not only the federal government, but from states. The state of Indiana's governor just left Martin University out of its state budget. It is the largest African-American university in the state of Indiana. He says the school is illegal. And so if every governor gets to say that the HBCUs, the land-grant institutions in their states, are illegal, well, federal funding being cut because Donald Trump says so at the federal level, state legislature is ignoring them at the local level, HBCUs will close just because they found some money. Oh, we found some money at A&T. We found some money at North Carolina Central. You ain't find no money. These white colleges were not letting Black kids in. And because they were not letting us in, which was illegal, African Americans established historically Black colleges and universities. So there's a point in time when the argument, when it comes to us, always gets turned on its head, and we are the losers. Either we're going to play by the same set of rules or we're not going to play by the same set of rules. They don't get to discriminate. And then when we create institutions on our own, go ahead. Go ahead, brother.
This is what I think. Look, I went to T for a while. My daughter is graduating this May, and she's gotten to law school coming out of A&T. All right. So I have a huge connection. I tailgate there every year. I give to the Alumni Association. I'm there every homecoming, no matter what in my life. G-Ho, always there.
That's it.
So
That's it.
Literally, I have that same connection, not to mention my son is my frat brother and he plays there. So it's just, I have the same connection that you have. And I understand that, but I think we need to make a more rounded argument when we're talking about this DEI and HBCUs. When you talk about the agricultural stuff that they're taking away, right? Most of the kids in the agricultural program are either kids of farmers or they're Caucasian going to our schools because they're getting scholarships at our schools and not at the white schools because they are the minority on our yard. We also need to make the argument, if we're going to talk about DEI, the military is DEI, because if you serve in the military and you apply for a job, you get extra points when they're grading for positions because you're former military. That is a form of DEI. You're getting a leg up because of something that you are or something that you did. Same thing that they're saying about Black people. The other argument we need to be making is about the same thing we should have been making about affirmative action all along. The number one beneficiary of DEI is white women, not Black people, not Latino people.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm here with my very good friend, Warren Ballantyne. When we come forward, we will continue this conversation. We're going to turn our attention to the Department of Agriculture, HBCUs, and the governor of Maine confronting the president of the United States over the issue of transgenders.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I feel so alone. I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like it inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help.
you are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-511-2112. That's 800-511-2112. 800-511-2112.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I started vaping my freshman year of high school, mostly because all my friends had vapes. I wanted to fit in with them and look cool and be a part of everything that they were doing. The hardest part about quitting for me was all my friends still hitting their vapes right next to me. It was really frustrating and confusing when I was trying to quit because in my head I knew I didn't want to do it anymore, but for some reason my brain still wanted it.
No quit story is the same. For free support, text Kick Nicotine to 66819 today.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. program. My very special guest is my great friend, Warren Ballantyne. Hey, Warren. Welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. show.
Good to be with you, brother. As always, this has been a great hour so far. And, you know, just even before we get to the last part of this, I just want to say this because I don't want to get your producer in trouble or you in trouble. I am drinking water, y'all. This is my bottled water right here. I'm a single dude. I don't like doing dishes, so I drink everything. I eat everything off of paper plates and drink everything out of paper cup.
You ain't wrong. You
I
ain't
like
wrong.
water.
let me get. All right, I'll pass that on to my producer. I'm sure she heard it. Listen,
so
Elon Musk is now bragging that he saved $50 billion. He's bragging that he saved $50 billion already. $50 billion from USAID, NIH, the Department of Education, the Department of Agriculture. but he's specifically going through the government looking for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. So he's trying to show you some receipts, but all of the receipts impact Black folk. It's like everything that has helped Black people, USAID feeding poor Black people, malaria shots and pills in Africa, food services, fresh and clean water programs, seeds so they can grow, cut all that. Now, NIH, dig out all of the grants that go to HBCUs because those are diversity, equity, and inclusion grants. That's medical grants, that's research, farm animals. Then in the Department of Agriculture, just dig out all of the scholarships, dig out all of the HBCUs that have the word agriculture in them, where we were founded picking tobacco, cotton, planting beans in the South, A&T State University, for example. So they've come up with $50 billion. That's our money. And it's still a small portion of the federal budget. So it's the Black contractors that are losing their contracts, that are losing their opportunities. It is African-American students who are losing their scholarships because of special scholarship programs in the Department of Agriculture. It is Black farmers whose program funding having not been paid through various crises in agriculture, where white farmers and agribusiness got paid, but Black farmers didn't. And now they're saying these programs need to be cut. I mean, I'm not confused about that at all. Elon Musk has gone through the government cutting Black programs and programs that overwhelmingly benefit African Americans, including the Department of Agriculture and the scholarship programs. Warren, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you that they're gutting this and they're taking stuff out. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, I'll tell people this. So my children's grandfather is a farmer. He went to A&T. He got his degree in architectural and agriculture there. In fact, he and your dad were classmates. And so he went there and he became an extension agent. And from the time of being with him and around him, I learned this about agriculture. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And they try to keep Black people out of that area because there's so much money in growing and producing food. And even the government have different plans that you can rent your land to the government to grow different things. If you have trees, you can cut those trees every 10 years and make $100,000 to $200,000 for wood on your land that deals with agriculture. So this is very important. But secondly, Jesse, the one thing that's great about T, that's great about Hampton, that's great about Howard, that's great about Morehouse, that's great about Spelman, isn't just the Black excellence. It's also how much money we give back as alumni to keep those schools moving forward for the next generations. Now, I'm going to challenge everybody, whether you had a kid or a cousin or anybody who went to an HBCU. If you had nobody who went to an HBCU, give $5, give $10, donate, because if this money is not going to be available through the federal government and through the states, we need to make sure that these schools survive so we can get them back funded by the federal government and through the states. Because I promise you this, these kids are getting a world-class education at all these HBCUs.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But I want to offer some context, or my 17 years in Congress means nothing. For my listeners and our listeners, I have 13 honorary doctorate degrees. 4 of them are from historically Black colleges and universities, specifically their medical schools. Meharry, Drew, Howard University, schools of medicine. When Lou Stokes retired from Congress, I took his seat on the Labor, Health, and Human Services Committee. We had good science. The Institute of Medicine issued a report that African Americans were dying in every category: heart disease, liver disease, you name it. But the number one cause of preventing death in the Black community was that African Americans did not have access to Black doctors and Black care. Therefore, I offered legislation to create the National Center for Minority Health at the NIH. It was later that I offered legislation to create the National Center. and then the National Institute to Address Domestic Health Disparities. At that time, Morehouse School of Medicine had $4 million in contributions since the inception of the college from their faculty,
Wow.
from their students.
Wow.
Now they have $100 million.
Good.
Because the grant making program came from the National Institute of Health. It doesn't come from alumni. The same program is creating doctors at Meharry and Drew and Howard. Black doctors don't make enough money like the Harvard, Yale doctors, where they have 20, 30, and 40, $50 billion endowed medical schools. The Negro institutions are still at $100 million. And largely because the federal government determined we need to produce more Black doctors and Black nurses because Black doctors and Black nurses end up in Black communities. Elon Musk has said that program is illegal. White doctors from Harvard and Yale don't come to the ghetto. They don't come to the Black community. It has to be targeted to get them there. I mean, I can't say that enough because it's one thing to say, we need to give $5, $10 and give back to the HBCUs, but that's not how these institutions work. Ask Dr. William Harvey at Hampton University, who left $500 million in endowment at Hampton University, which was once Institute when he was there. And so the process for getting federal funds and federal programming into these schools, Elon Musk and Doge is saying is illegal. They're not saying it's illegal at Harvard or illegal at Yale.
Jesse, but see, I got to push back on this just a little bit. And the reason why I'm pushing back on this just a little bit is because this is the thing. Everything you're saying is 100,000% true. But my thought process is this. If they're not going to fund this, we got to keep these schools open. And the reality of it is they don't want to fund this. But they're not just doing this even on the Black level. One of the things that came out just 2 days ago was they have all these programs for all colleges where they pay teachers to go teach in very rural areas. And 98% of those teachers are white. They cut that whole program. And these white schools are losing their mind about it because they're saying, wait a minute, who's going to go teach these kids in these rural areas?
We're all in the same boat. Our programs are in the same boat. Our programs are in the same boat with poor white.
Yeah, they're all in the same boat. And that's what I'm saying. We got to make this argument a bigger argument because it's affecting everybody. And what I personally believe, come September, when all this stuff really starts to affect everybody in the country, MAGA is going to be screaming for Donald Trump to pull all this stuff back. And I think when that happens, him and Elon Musk are going to fall out and all this stuff is going to be pulled back to what it was. That's what I think.
I only have 1 minute before our program ends, but I just want to remind everybody, in 4 years, in 2 years, there's going to be a congressional re-election. The whole Congress is up and you've got to keep these issues in the forefront of your mind. And 4 years from now, someone's going to be the next president of the United States. Is there a Democrat who has 500 executive orders ready to go in the first 10 days? Are they working on it?
I hope so.
Is there someone who's going to put DEI back in place in the first 10 days? Are they working on it?
I hope so.
Is there some Democrat who's going to pardon 1,500 people in our community in the first hour of their administration? Are they working on it? I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And on this show with Warren Ballentine, my very special guest, the sky is most definitely the limit. Until next time, Warren.
All right, brother. Thank you.
I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you for being on the show.
All right.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.